There's a five-alarm fire happening right now in the United States of America, and the mainstream media simply isn't doing enough to push back. After Donald Trump fired the person responsible for releasing the job numbers that he simply did not like yesterday, he told the American public essentially, quote, "You're right. Why should anyone trust numbers?" He was asked by reporters leaving the White House yesterday or returning to the White House whether or not Americans can trust the numbers coming from his administration after he himself said that the numbers were rigged, that the numbers were made to make him look bad. And now he's saying, you're right. Why should trust the numbers?
On the monthly jobs report, going forward, why should anyone trust the numbers?
Well, that's
and if
you're right. No, you're right. Why should anybody trust numbers?
Folks, this is so dangerous. If we cannot trust the numbers coming out of the Trump White House, then what can we trust? Can we trust numbers coming from Treasury? Can we trust numbers coming about public health data from HHS? Can we trust future job numbers coming from commerce or labor? And the answer appears to be no, or at least the answer appears to be the mainstream media, the media as a whole, needs to do more in this moment to scrutinize everything that is going to be coming out of the White House. And unfortunately, right now, it doesn't appear as though that it will happen. This morning, CNN front page on its website didn't even mention the fact that Donald Trump fired the person responsible for releasing the job numbers, and certainly didn't cause alarm to the fact that he said, why should anyone trust the numbers? Well, here's where independent media comes in. I will always hold this administration accountable in pursuit of the truth. I will scrutinize the numbers if the mainstream won't. So please consider subscribing to support my work by clicking the button below or sending a one-time donation via Venmo to Aaron-Parnas. We're going to see what happens next. But right now, the United States economy is really being rocked. The job numbers were a precursor to what we are going to see over the next several weeks and several months as these new tariffs that have been instituted by the president take effect. Now, we're not going to see the impacts of the tariffs right away. We're going to see the impacts of the tariffs over the course of weeks and months. It's not going to happen overnight. But many of the tariffs are already in effect, at least when it comes to Canada. Many more will take effect on August 6th when it comes to other countries. So we'll see what happens next. Meanwhile, federal appellate courts across the country, including 2 appeals courts, have now declared Donald Trump's executive order regarding restricting birthright citizenship unconstitutional. And it looks as though the United States Supreme Court will be set up to be asked whether or not this executive order is constitutional or not, setting up one of the biggest legal battles in 2026. Now, we're going to see when and if it gets to the United States Supreme Court, how the justices react. But ultimately, changing the 14th Amendment to not include birthright citizenship for individuals born in the United States to 2 undocumented parents is a violation of the 14th Amendment. It completely alters the text of the United States Constitution. So we'll see how the United States Supreme Court reacts. And speaking about this United States Supreme Court, overnight, the Supreme Court decided to take up an issue that could fundamentally change districts across the country. So essentially, it's going to consider whether or not race-based districts are allowed under the Voting Rights Act. So whether or not a black majority district, for example, is allowed in the state of Texas, like Texas's 18th congressional district. And the purpose behind these black majority districts, or just race-based districts, is to ensure that every person in America has adequate representation. Every group in America, race group, has adequate representation in Congress, especially as in the past, individuals have drawn districts in an effort to restrict the ability of Black Americans to have a voice, to have a representative voice in Congress. And now the United States Supreme Court is going to take up a case that could fundamentally gut the Voting Rights Act and change and really reject these race-based districts moving forward. The case is going to be argued this fall. The question is going before the court next term, and then we're likely going to have a decision by June of next year in 2026. So there's still time, and any such decision likely won't even impact the 2026 elections. It'll likely be for the next time there's redistricting, which will be 2030. Meanwhile, Newsmax host Greg Kelly sparked significant outrage by suggesting that Ghislaine Maxwell might be innocent.
That's why I'm not taking anything without skepticism from anybody, especially the media, especially the government, especially the Department of Justice. And I don't care, quite frankly, who it's about, including Ghislaine Maxwell, and to a lesser extent, Jeffrey Epstein, all right? I say lesser extent. Jeffrey Epstein pleaded guilty to the sex stuff in 2008, all right? He's a dirtbag monster. Does that mean Ghislaine Maxwell is? I don't think so, folks. That's not the way our society works, not the way it's supposed to work at all. There is so much exculpatory evidence here that nobody understands, that it looks like the government kept from the defense, which is illegal, juror misconduct, you name it. And look at what happened in that court, right? Prosecutor pointing the finger, all right? Just remember this image for a moment, all right? Ghislaine Maxwell's on the left. It's COVID, right? So hardly anybody's there. And the attorney, the government attorney, doesn't have to wear a mask, pointing her finger right there at Maxwell.
Yes, that is a real video. He claimed that her conviction is the result of a broader conspiracy driven by the most reviled institutions in America, namely the media and the Biden Justice Department, rather than credible evidence. Now, what he is discounting and what he is not talking about is the fact that multiple victims testified against Maxwell in her sentencing hearing. They outlined the horrors that her and Epstein caused to them. Their pain, their trauma, what they endured was not a conspiracy theory, and Maxwell was found guilty by a jury of her peers of 5 counts related to sex trafficking. Well, now Newsmax is under fire because it's suggesting that that conviction may be part of a conspiracy theory. Meanwhile, detainees at Florida's so-called Alligator Alcatraz Immigration Detention Center have been now on a hunger strike for 10 days, protesting what they describe as inhumane conditions, including lack of food, hygiene, and medical care. Civil rights groups are actively suing over denied legal access, and local leaders are condemning the facility as part of a broader abusive immigration crackdown under this administration. A federal appellate court upheld a ruling that barred immigration agents in Los Angeles from detaining people based solely on language, job, race, or location. A self-described neo-Nazi named Chris Booth has now amassed over 2.3 million views and 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, spreading anti-Semitic, racist, and earning ad revenue while being married to a local Republican official. And this has only been exposed after The Guardian wrote an expose, which I actually linked below on it because I think it's important to read that. In Montana right now, a manhunt is underway for Michael Paul Brown, the suspect accused of fatally shooting 4 people at the historic Owl Bar in Anaconda. Despite recovering his truck and searching his home, authorities have yet to locate him, prompting an urgent multi-agency response and lockdown warnings across the small, shaken community. Experts testify that night vision goggles likely hindered Army helicopter pilots' visibility before the Black Hawk collided midair with a passenger jet near D.C. earlier this year. Donald Trump has turned the Rose Garden into a paved area. El Salvador's ruling party has approved sweeping constitutional changes, which now allow for indefinite presidential re-election and extending terms to 6 years, cementing President Bukele's grip on power. Folks, that's all the news right now. If you want to support my work, subscribe today or send a one-time donation via Venmo to Aaron-Parnas, and I'll see you this evening. Hey folks, Aaron Parnas here. Thank you so much for watching The Parnas Perspective. Please consider subscribing to support our work as we grow this independent news media entity into something that rivals mainstream every single day. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.